What is coaching? Why one needs coach? How coaches can help you? How coaching works? And what tools do they use? You got questions? We got answers for you. If you ask these questions anytime, I invite you to join my conversation with Gary Bamberger, a dear friend of mine. He is an enterprise agile coach. He is a CPCC from Coactive Coaching and has many years of agile coaching experience. Let's join the conversation and get you answers to those questions. What is coaching to begin with? Let's start
Yeah.
with that.
Okay. So the ICF, the International Coaching Federation, has this definition around the coaching being a partnership to open up space, my words, right? To open up space around thought-provoking dialogue and forward action in service of the client, so to speak, right? So the client is the person receiving the coaching. So it's really around how do we get some forward action, move the client forward, help the client to think differently, and hold that space for that client to actually do that work. When we talk about agile coaching, we're actually adding elements into that. So core coaching itself is a process unto itself. It has its own tools and techniques, lots of certifications and things like that. When we talk about agile coaching, we're actually adding in elements or disciplines around facilitation and training, mentoring, could be, and of course, agile, right? The agile discipline and the agile expertise. So those are the things that are add-ons into the core coaching competency when we talk about agile coaching.
Great. And you mentioned the client, right? So I just want to get clarification on that for our audience. So when we talk about client could be individual, right? Or client could be a team, client could be organization, client could be an executive within the team, within the organization as well, right? So you're working with different types of clients, different levels as well.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And I love that you called out the team, because team coaching is different than individual coaching, right? There's different techniques that you can use in a team setting that you wouldn't necessarily use in an individual setting, and vice versa.
If that is the coaching, why do I even care about coaching? Why one needs a coach? What are
So
the
coaching to me is really about a partnership in order to achieve your goals. I'll say that as I went through my coaching certification process, there was quite a bit of aha moments that I achieved. It helped me to get clear on my mission in life, my goals in life, what was important to me, identify my personal values and my belief systems. So all of those things then help me to figure out what is going to resonate with me, what's really going to bring me alive in my life journey, so to speak, right? And what I'm going to do moving forward in my life. To me, coaching is really a cool aspect that can help people or teams to actually figure out, how do we move forward and put some of the thinking in the right context. So let me give you an example, right? There's these things that I call like saboteurs, right? It's a common nomenclature in the coaching world. And saboteurs are basically negative thoughts, right? They're deconstructive thoughts, if you will, that rip down personal thinking, my personal view of myself, if you will, my internal thoughts. So to me, the saboteurs are always nipping at my heels, so to speak, and they don't really serve me. All they do is hold me back. So as a coach, when I'm coaching an individual, for example, I'm on the lookout for those saboteurs and for those disempowering thoughts, if you will. because my goal is to empower my client to see the greatness in my client that they may not even see themselves, and be able to champion them and have them see their own greatness, and then live into it, step into it, and pursue their mission in life from that base.
And if I may add, I think the coaches can provide you that outside perspective, right? Kind of give you that out of body experience, if you want to call it, right? You may
Yes.
not be able to see certain things which are obvious to the other person, and they can point it out with an intention to help you. Basically, that's the goal as a coach. You are often pushing the client, again, with the intent to help them get better. So if that is the intention, how do we help the client as coaches? What are the different ways we work with the clients?
Yeah, great question. So the underpinning to this is that there's what we call a big A agenda in the coactive coaching world that comes from the client. So the client sets the agenda. It's everything that we do as a coach is in service to that client. When we talk about, a coaching engagement, and typically, like, a coaching session in particular, we're really using that big A agenda and making sure that anything that we're talking about or anything that we're doing is in pursuit of that big A agenda, right? The ultimate goal, like what is the big hairy goal that the client has. And then when we get into the coaching sessions, I typically spend a little bit of time with clearing, I'll say, right? Where are you? And let's get centered, do something to get ourselves centered. And then there's typically a topic. So we'll explore what topic that the client wants to discuss in that particular session. We'll get clear around that. And sometimes that takes some time because we might be treating a symptom instead of the root cause, right? And so we spend a little bit of time about what is it that we want to talk about? What's the topic that's most important, top of the mind? And then we drill into that in how to solve that topic. How do we move forward on that particular topic? Could be a problem. It could be a challenge. It could be some limiting self-belief that's holding the person back. And so we'll actually step through and brainstorm, use different tools and techniques to figure out what possible solutions there are to that particular topic. And then by the end of the session, we're really honing in on what resonates most. What is that client most likely to move forward with? And this is where you were spot on with this, Nimesh. This is where we're actually maybe challenging the client and saying, it seems like you're playing smaller than you can, right? And offering some different perspective around, hey, what if you played bigger, right? What if we use this different perspective? Would that be more empowering? Would you be able to play bigger or do more, right? So it's, we're really looking to get the client to forward their action and commit to that. And then we'll be the accountability partner in the next session, right? Okay, so what did you do? How did that go? What were the results, right? What did you experience during that? So using a lot of those, powerful questions in order to get them centered on the results.
I've seen this common misconception at multiple clients, and I want to bring that up, and you can shed some light on that as well. Oftentimes when we go in as coaches, the client is expecting that you have solution to their problems. You will go in and give them the solution. And when we don't do that, they get frustrated. To me, coaching is not about giving you the solution, but rather guiding you towards that solution, right? You have all the capabilities in you. We are just guiding you, and we are kind of co-explorer, if you want to call it, towards finding that solution. So if you can shed some light on that, because that's a common misconception.
Yeah, I think that's a great point and a great differentiator between agile coaching and coaching as a profession. In coaching as a profession, you're 100% right. You do not offer. The objective is not to offer solutions or mentor the person or advise the person. It's really to allow them to explore and using different tools and techniques in order to help them to do the exploration. I think when I'm in an agile coaching environment, it's walking that fine line between where do I mentor and advise versus coach, right? And what kind and this is where the expertise of the coach comes in, right? And what are you sensing in that moment? What are you seeing? What are you interpreting based in that particular moment? So there are times where I will offer suggestion and I will pivot, and I do my best to pivot and say, look, this is not, I'm stepping out of the coach role and I'm stepping into the mentoring / advising role, right? And I will, I can tell you some things that I have done in the past. And then the most important part is, I'm giving you these ideas, but then we need to tailor them for you and your organization, your team, et cetera. Right? Because what worked over here isn't necessarily going to work over there, right? You can't necessarily take the Spotify model and implant it in your organization and have it work, because your organization is different than Spotify. So it's really taking that context into account as we build these things out. So, but again, that's where agile coaching, the aperture is much broader, it's bigger than what we have in pure coaching, where it's more focused on just the coaching aspect. And I'll be, even in my individual coaching practice where I'm coaching individuals, outside of Agile, I still do sometimes swap in that mentor hat periodically, because either the person asks and needs it, like I feel that that's the appropriate action in this interaction, in this coaching session, or maybe they're stuck and they're really stuck. And so offering a suggestion will get the brain waves going and the gears turning a little easier to enable them to figure out what is going to work for them, right? Because in the end, it's got to be the idea that they have the solution is so that it resonates with them. And it's something that they can commit to. If I come up with a solution, now I'm telling them, how resonant is that going to be? Probably not, right? There's might be more dissonance than resonance with that solution. So let's make sure it's something that resonates with the person so they're more likely to actually execute on it.
Yeah, definitely. And if they come up with this solution, I think it also helps us because they'll have a bigger, better buy-in into that solution because they came up with it. So with this, like I know you've been doing coaching for quite some time. You worked with many clients, many teams. I'm sure you have your own toolbox. So if you can share some of the tools that you have used in the past, some of the tools that can help our audience as well.
Yeah, great. So I think some of the tools that I've used from a coaching standpoint, and particularly in agile coaching more, are things like, becoming clear about what's the mission, what is that big A agenda. We don't necessarily call it that in agile coaching, but it's what's the outcomes that we're looking for? What problems or challenges or benefits are we looking for? What are the outcomes? So that to me is key, because then that sets up the relationship, right? So in coaching, we talk about, designing the alliance as well. So how are we going to be in relationship with each other? I think that's an important thing in agile coaching as well, right? What am I as coach expected to do? What can you expect me to do as your agile coach versus what am I expecting you to do, right? So really setting up those boundaries and laying out what those expectations are. And then we have things like, using powerful questions, which are basically open-ended questions, starting with what typically, or how at times, and really getting curious. That's another tool, right? Being very curious about what's going on, what they're thinking, how they're moving forward, what the situation is. And I think along with that is listening. Listening is key. And it's there's multiple levels of listening, but to me, listening is like one of the key aspects of this, because you're listening at a global level as a coach, so that you're not just listening to the words they're saying, but you're listening for other elements like energy and what they're not saying, how they're saying it, what language are they using? Are they coming from a positive place or a negative place when they're talking about this topic, right? Because that might be an opportunity to use different perspectives to help them to explore that a little bit. And I think, like we talked about, championing the client or the team or whatever, right? I think that's huge, right? Seeing them and reflecting back to them what I'm seeing as a coach is critical, right? Like showing them the progress that they've made, showing them how they're interacting with each other, and is it in alignment with their values as a team? I mean, those things are really critical. And acknowledging how they are in the day-to-day activities, right? And pointing out, this was a great daily scrum meeting, and this is why, and this is what I saw, and this is how you're helping each other out, or whatever the situation is, really calling those things out and acknowledging them and calling them forth in that way, so that they can say, oh yeah, we did do that. Oh wow, we're really rocking this, right? And getting the energy pumped up and getting them to see themselves from a different perspective, from outside of themselves. So those are like some of the tools that that I've used in the past. There's many more from a coaching standpoint that you can delve into, but those are some of the more popular ones and ones that I use more frequently.
Hope you are enjoying this conversation and getting a ton of value. Just to summarize, we have touched on the basics of coaching. So far, Gary discussed what is coaching, what are the benefits of coaching. He also explained the difference between coaching and agile coaching. We also delved into common misconceptions of coaches providing solutions. And Gary also shared some of the tools from his coaching toolbox. Don't forget to join us next week as we continue this conversation, as we continue this exploration, going deeper and deeper into the world of agile coaching. Until then, keep changing the world, one person, one team, one organization at a time. This episode is sponsored by Eric Solutions. Are you ready to take your agile coaching journey to the next level? Want to shift your journey into next gear? Join Nimesh at the next Agile Coaching Bootcamp. Join us for highly experiential, fun-filled workshop and earn 2 highly sought-after certifications. We also offer 3 months of ongoing coaching and mentoring. So, are you ready to take the plunge? Join the workshop. You'll get Agile Team Facilitation, Agile Coaching Certification. Those are the 2 certifications. So 1 workshop, 2 certifications, 3 months of ongoing coaching and mentoring. So register now.